Welcome back to another episode of We Talk Fit
with Mish and Dean.
Make sure the mic's on.
So you were talking about...
Morning.
Hey mate, about... You were asking us the other day about what you would tell yourself. What would you tell your younger self? Like what if you could, do you want to number them? Like, do you want to go 5 bits of advice you would give?
Okay, yep. For your younger self.
Your younger self?
Yep.
Obviously it's not that many years ago for me, so...
Oh, it's only yesterday for me, do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. 5 bits of advice I would tell myself when I started training. Would be...
And you can't hire me as a PT.
Well, I would be getting a PT, for sure. Stepping into a gym. Learning the movements properly, correctly, so I'm actually engaging certain muscles correctly, knowing or understanding what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because you can look at YouTube and you can see all these videos and you can look at how it's done and things like that, but you can move the weight from A to B, but you don't know if you're actually engaging the correct muscles properly.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Nutrition, definitely. Understanding how it benefits your growth in the gym or your energy in the gym, or in training and sports and stuff like that as well. And then, like 5.
Well, they don't have to be in order yet. We could probably try and find them and then order them, maybes, because it's not always the same for every person either.
No.
For me, it would be, I'd go definitely learning how to move properly.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is, like, it's easy when you're young, you're relatively injury free, you're not worried about those things because you haven't learned the hard way. Like range of motion.
15 injury, yeah.
15, right. So range of motion, so like you might have a PT or someone watching over you, but range of motion with probably the big moves, right? So learn how to like deadlift properly, learn how to squat properly, learn how to bench properly, because all of the other stuff is basically accessory work around that, more or less. So I'd learn those 3 properly. So if you want to kind of put that all under range of motion, technique, effort level.
Mm-hmm.
So if your technique's good, you've ticked that box. You want to be taking your sets to the right effort level. So what I mean by that is like your last couple of reps, depending on what your goals are. But if you're looking for some growth and that stimulus, then you're going to need to get a couple of difficult reps in there.
Yeah.
Recovery. So not necessarily...
Still need to work on that a little bit, but yep.
Well, we're all guilty of trying to... We've all got, 24 hours that we're trying to cram as much in as we can. But recovery's not necessarily sleep, although that's the big ticket item.
Yeah.
I just mean rest, because as a young lad many moons ago, we definitely get caught thinking more is better.
Yeah.
Well, if that worked, I'll do more of it, but not really, because once you've done a certain amount of it, if you don't recover from it, doing more is probably detrimental.
Yeah, so like hypertrophy and growth. So if you're training chest 4 times a week, like essentially, which then you're potentially having to do them like twice in a row, things like that. And then you're actually breaking down the muscle and you're not actually giving it a chance to. And
also there's, we've just literally on the last one chatted about RSI. So if you're training bench every day or chest every day, there's that.
See you later. Enjoy your day.
There's those joints going through the same range 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So there's that. So the recovery would be the correct amount of rest period from certain joints or muscle groups. I'm going to add nutrition into the recovery piece. Because I want it to sound like it, because it's very much supporting.
Yep.
So you, again, speaking many moons ago as a young lad, you would probably think you can out-train anything and lift properly, lift heavy, do what you want, and eat what you want. And your goals could be so much easier achieved, should I say, with the right support from nutrition.
So there's new studies out actually in regards to because the whole thing at the moment is having your protein after you train.
They're sort of saying that it's not as...
So as long as you're getting your percentage of protein in for the day, it doesn't matter when you have it, as long as you have it.
Yeah.
But what you should be having after you train is actually a carbohydrate source.
Yeah.
Is what the latest data is showing. But it's forever changing, it's forever evolving.
Like, it's hard to tell your younger self this one, but because we've got the benefit of a little bit of years of training, right? So you'd go with what works. So like, if you find that after training, some simple carbs, some protein works, then, but you've got enough of a record of data to know that that's what's working, and that's what you go with.
That's what you go with, yeah.
If you don't have the benefit of hindsight and knowing what you've tried and, you know, had success from, I would go with the whole moderation thing. And that's where I'd say to my younger self, right, you want to try and get, you know, 3 meals a day plus your snacks. Get a breakfast, get a lunch, get a dinner. And with each one, you're going to have some protein, some carbs, some fats.
Yeah.
Vegetables would be a big one.
Just your basic, veggies. Yeah.
Veggies.
Just your basic
big one.
Macros. And having a basically a balanced meal as much as you can with your 3 macros.
I try and think about it.
Yeah.
I try and think about it like with, because obviously the age of my kids, and I try and, so this whole point about talking to my younger self, I'm putting myself at the age of where my kids would be. And I know if I told them some things, that would be too much. So if I said macros to my kids, they'd go, what the hell?
No idea.
Which I agree with, by the way. I don't think they should be worried about that stuff.
No, yeah.
So it's more about just softening that message. If you were talking to your younger self and saying, hey, just, you know, as much as you can, this is your goal. Rather than, you want to try and get your macros to this, or this.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like vegetables. That would be a huge one. I was a fussy bastard when I was little, so had I known, probably.
I couldn't. We didn't have a lot growing up, so it was more. It was your veg, your potato, and your meat sauce.
But really, yeah. But there you go. That's that balanced meal. So that's not.
And I was a very fit and
strong. I bet you were
strong little kid.
Yeah.
So
there's that, and then leaning into the training side of it a little bit more, I would say. So once you've learned how to train, decent technique, often enough, the right intensity, I would say legs. Prioritize your lower body.
Yeah. Why prioritize your lower body in your training?
So depend. You know, regardless of where your goals are, if your lower body is stronger, you're less prone to injury, which is boring to a kid, to an adolescent. They're not really interested because they think they're invincible. But that's the fact. You're more resilient because your lower body's stronger. You can then carry more load. Your power output's going to go up, which means that you can then do better movements with your upper body. So there's like lots of knock-on effects of having a strong lower body.
Yeah.
We're not really got into like the cellular level where we talk about the amount of growth hormone that's naturally released in your body when you train.
When you're
legs
training.
heavy. Yeah. Nothing gives you the same metabolic hit as training lower body intensely. Yeah. There's so many reasons.
Benefits for it, yeah.
So I'd say, like my training, I wasn't young when I started training like really, really intense. My training went through the roof with a remarkable increase when I started really training legs heavy twice a week.
Yeah.
Properly structured workouts though.
Yeah, not
to allow the correct recovery and stuff like we've talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, lower body, focus on lower body, particularly a posterior chain, hamstrings.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd definitely probably that's terrible, isn't it? So I didn't step into a gym until after I had injured myself through sports. So knee reconstructions. Would have gotten myself to get into some strength training for my lower body earlier, which basically concurs with what you're saying.
Yeah, like, and we've got the hindsight, and we've learned some of the lessons the hard way. But sorry,
give yourself a timer.
I think my training went to a different level when I prioritized lower body.
Yeah. You find you got a lot stronger with everything else as well.
I wonder how that goes with the current trend, like, because obviously, and I'm not for a second judging anybody, it's just what I've noticed. So unfortunately, it's happened enough that I've noticed it, and it's fact, right? The lower body focus of female training, I wonder, because if they're doing exactly what I've said and spending so much time focusing on the lower body, are they going to get the benefit of what I'm talking about? Because I think they're probably pushing it a lot of, not most of, a lot of, some of, are probably pushing it too much. With too much focus on particularly the posterior chain, the glutes.
Yeah, so I know that there's been, like, obviously it's a trend. We both know that that's fact. A lot of young females are wanting to go glutes and abs. It is what it is. That's what it's always been for a long time.
Bad things. It's just knowing
if you're overdoing it or not as well. And then it's also, something that I saw the other day, and it was like, oh, I want to grow my glutes, but I don't want to grow my quads, or, I don't want to work my quads at all, but I want to just work my glutes. And it's like, you want to make sure that you're symmetrical in your strength, not just.
Yeah, it's how would you sell that to someone like that's only looking at it from an aesthetic point of view? Like, because we know the muscle imbalances are going to lead to injury, right? It's just no ifs or buts about it. That's what'll happen.
Yeah.
Your postural movement is going to be affected by it. You're going to be more susceptible to injury because of that. You're setting yourself up for failure. You might have very strong glutes, you might have very strong hamstrings, but if they're way more dominant or biased in movement than other muscles, there's a correct time that they should be.
Yeah.
But if you take it to the extreme, which we've seen a lot of, it's a tricky one. How would you pass that message on to someone that's only really looking at it from an aesthetic point of view? Because until they've got injured, they're not really going to
take it on
buy
board.
into it.
Yeah.
It's delivering that in the right way. I mean, it's with a client, I guess you could work pretty smart with our exercise choices. So you would find movements that do definitely target that area, but would also, so cross joint movements.
Yeah.
I still think the squat is like the king.
Yeah.
A proper squat, and obviously deadlifts. So you could argue that we've chatted about this loads, haven't we? You've had trainers that have recommended certain types of training for you, bloody hip thrusts and stuff, but I want to literally do a whole episode on hip thrusts. Whole episode where I can just vent
about it.
But yeah, so you could try and negate it that way a little. Yeah,
that's generally what I try and do. So if I get a client that's so dead set on glute growth, then I'll make sure that I still have exercises in that program that target the quads as well, but they may not quite realise it, but more for strength and stuff as well, so that they're actually building strength around their joints opposed to just one part.
I mean, you could probably say it's in a way it's similar to a lot of, talking from experience, a lot of guys that would want to train and have a good chest and front delts. Like, you're going to get dominant in one area, so you're more susceptible to rotator cuff or other problems happening.
Yeah, and it's actually something
sell that to them.
That's exactly something that I spoke to one of my clients a while back was, growing chest, and it's like we need to make sure that we're just as strong in the back.
We talked about that,
Yeah, and then he found an interview with an Olympic weightlifter who got the record in the bench or whatever.
You told us about
the interview that was, how are you so strong in your bench? And he turned around and said, I have to have a strong back.
Yeah.
So I've got just as strong a back as what I do for my chest.
Yeah. So you haven't
got that imbalance.
So that's what we know in the background, but you could sell that to the client, the person, whoever's asking you the question about, oh, hey, if you want to bench better, try some of this. So you've sold like the exercises that are going to build up the other side of stuff to them.
Yeah. So I was discussing that with the client and saying, oh, we need a stronger back if we want to have a stronger chest.
Yeah.
And it was actually him who found the interview with the Olympic weightlifter and sent it to me. And I was like,
that's good.
That's what you were telling me. And I was like, yeah, like,
that's a win.
Yeah.
Definitely a win right there.
Yeah.
But it's how, see
you later.
It's how you would pass that to, like we're talking to our younger selves. I would have no idea. Nobody wants to chat to a younger Dean anyway. I'm telling you right now, you don't want to talk to a like 14, 15-year-old me. So I probably wouldn't have listened.
No, I
wasn't quite as open-minded as I am now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did we go? We went.
We've both got sort of nutrition or like recovery, food with recovery.
Recovery. Nutrition doesn't not complicated, but just
basic nutrition. Basic.
Be aware of it.
Yeah.
Be aware of it.
What's going to fuel you, what's going to help with your energy, basically. Moderation, not eating too much. Technique, definitely.
So I sort of said training properly, technique.
Yeah.
Would you put guidance under that one? Like PT, coach?
Yeah.
It's difficult for some people because obviously there's costs involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Your compound moves. So all your big lifts, learning to do them correctly and progressing them correctly and not just progressing with weight.
No. Range. So, well, not arguably range.
Like a little bit of an add-on to it is when you're doing your progressive overload for those sorts of movements is not just going, I'm going to go heavier and heavier and heavier.
No, there's other things.
It's, there's other ways to progress those before you get to that real heavy weight.
So we've separated that. Train properly is more the technique side of it. Sorry, move properly is more the technique side of it. Train properly is more what exercises, so compounds.
Yeah.
And then, what was the last one we were going to touch on? Oh, well, I kind of went prioritize lower body, but we're not quite sure on that. That's what I would pass on. And I, from experience, that's what I feel and I do that with my clients as well. I build the base.
Yeah.
Build the foundation, and the whole body should be stronger if that foundation's stronger.
Yeah.
So I deliver that however best.
Yeah, strength in the lower body, which is sort of really good for athletes and stuff as well. So.
Well, yeah, you can take that on anything. You just got to watch. If you were doing it with an athletic person, don't let that strong foundation come at the cost of unimpinged movement. Or sorry, come at the cost of impinged movement. So obviously, if you just built huge quads and big hammies and glutes, there might actually, although there'll be a lot of force generation, if the other smaller muscle groups, adductors, hip flexors, aren't up to scratch. But that's where we've covered it with proper movement.
Proper movement, technique and stuff.
Cross joint movements.
Cross joint.
So we were talking to our younger selves, but then we went quite complicated.
We did then.
So I didn't know 15-year-old Michelle, but I don't know if she would listen to that either. No,
I probably wouldn't. So things that I'd probably listen to would be...
Depends who's saying it as well, I guess.
Oh, yeah, well, it would.
If it was me, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I'd listen to me. No. Probably simply getting into a gym and learning lifts correctly due to injury, because I did get injured quite young, 15. ACL repair and things like that. So getting into a gym and actually working on the imbalance, because I did have an imbalance in my quads. So definitely that.
Cool, McCool. We're calling it there?
Yeah. Yes.
Finito?
Yep, finito.
Perfect. Well done, mate.